start recording so that if anyone would like to share this webinar with anyone that's unable to attend, we'll have a copy that you can share, and we'll share it out when we get done here with everyone that registered. So again, thank you guys for taking the time to join us this morning. We're going to be talking about MCNC's DNS Security Filtering, and specifically Akamai's Zero Trust client that is rolled out and needs a little bit of action from you if you are currently utilizing the Akamai ETP client. So, quick round of introductions. I'm Ruthie Mabe. I manage the security services business here at MCNC, and I also have Douglas Holland here from Akamai. He is the ultimate guru. I think if you have been on our Akamai service for a while and have needed some extra, engineering support from them, you've probably engaged with Akamai and through Douglas a time or two. So glad to have Akamai here with us today. And yes, I just got a comment, epic picture. Douglas changed his profile picture on the slide about 30 minutes before we kicked off, and it made me very happy. So thank you for that, Douglas. So before I hand it off to Douglas, because this is really his show today, I wanted to throw this slide up here as a reminder for everyone. Let's make sure that, if you guys have additional support requests that come in around what Douglas has, previewed for you here today, please contact MCNC support. If we can't support you through those steps, then definitely, we will engage with Douglas. But MCNC is your first line of support for this service. So I say that because it's very easy to open a ticket in the Akamai portal. A lot of times people think that that's going to get to the MCNC team, but it doesn't. It goes directly to the Akamai team, and they're really good at getting those requests back over to us. But your most direct route for support is to contact MCNC. So again, there's a ticket option, there's an email option, and then there's a contact phone number. And then the security services at mcnc.org alias there at the bottom, that is the alias that will get you to my team. We can help a little bit with technical support, but overall it's just service support. So with that being said, Douglas, I have nothing else to say other than I'm going to hand it over to you. So let me stop sharing and you can take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Ruthie, and welcome everybody. Great to be chatting with everyone again today. Appreciate your time. Wanted to, like Ruthie said, talk about our upgraded client. So a little background on what we're doing here. We're not purposely trying to drive you all fruit. We're just trying to make things a little bit easier for you all. And this Zero Trust client is something that's going to do just that. Now, the kind of background on this Zero Trust client, what we were trying to do with this is kind of make a combined client. Now, I know there may be a few of you all on this call that use both of our Zero Trust products, meaning our secure internet access, which is the DNS filtering, protective DNS service that we're providing, and then also our application access product. So for those of you that are using the application access product, you might have run into a situation where if you've got client-based applications, we needed to install a client for both products. So you had, two kind of Akamai clients that you needed to install. And so we heard from many of our customers that, this kind of sucks. We got enough clients as it is. Can you guys streamline this for us and maybe combine this into one client? And so we did that, and it does make things a little bit better. So the new client is designed to operate with both products. Now, that being said, you don't need both products to use the Zero Trust client. It will work if you have one product or the other. And we'll show you how that all works today here in the demo. Now, the other reason that you would want to upgrade to the client, a all the new development for the client software is going to be done on the Zero Trust client. So everything is going to be kind of the standalone versions of the client are being depreciated, so we won't be doing any fixes or any enhancements on those standalone clients. Everything will be done on the Zero Trust client. We're also going to show you some cool things that we can do with the Zero Trust client from a support perspective. So if any of you have ever had a case open with Akamai and you're troubleshooting your clients, you may have run into a situation where we've wanted to run diagnostics on the client and then have you send us a copy of the logs from that machine. That was a frustrating process just because we had to find out where on our system did the logs get stored. Now we're trying to send these logs off to Akamai support, and typically they're too big to email. And now we're trying to figure out, all right, here's an FTP server or some way to get these logs. It was just a big process and a hardship to do. With the new client, we've streamlined that. So now we can send logs directly to support right from the client. We can actually request the logs right from Akamai Control Center. So we've streamlined that and made that a whole lot easier. So for those of you that have had that, kind of a painful experience before, take heart that we've realized that has not been the best experience. And so we have taken steps to kind of streamline that process. And we'll show you what that all looks like here in the demo. So with that, let's get started with where this all lives and what this looks like, from a configuration standpoint. So here in Akamai Control Center, I've logged into Enterprise Center, which is the tool you use to manage your Zero Trust products. If we go to Threat Protection and now Clients and Connectors, we'll see we still have our legacy ETP clients. Now, if you're a newer subscriber to SIA, you might not see the older client part here, but it is still there for those of you that have been with us for a while. You'll still see your legacy ETP client section, but on the top two here, you'll see this manage and download clients, and then the Zero Trust client dashboard. So what we would do is just go here to our manage and download client section. When you first go to this, it's going to ask you, and if you haven't turned on client support for your account, it's going to ask you to turn that on, and it basically is just turning this switch on to enable or disable the client in your environment. So all these configuration options are exactly the same as they are for the legacy client. One thing that if you haven't looked at this in a while, and maybe you've got some older versions of the client, something that's kind of new is this transparent traffic interception selection. If you're in a Windows environment, we do recommend that you have toggled that on. What this does is it allows the client to intercept the traffic without modifying your browser or operating system settings. So what this means is older versions of the client used to install themselves as a tap adapter. What it would do is change the DNS settings on your network interfaces to localhost. So you'd look at your network interfaces and you'd see the DNS is set to 127.0.0.1. Fine, it let us intercept the traffic this way. The newer versions of the client have this transparent traffic interception, so we don't have to change the DNS settings on the device, and the client will then just intercept any DNS requests. So recommended. It just makes the client work a little better in Windows environments. So you have all your normal configuration options that you had in the previous versions of the client here. So another thing we did add is this, if you haven't seen it before, allow disable action with the activation code. So we've always had the ability to make the choice, do my users have the ability to turn off the client or not? Now we can do it with an activation code, meaning that maybe this is a good help desk kind of situation where A normal user wouldn't have an activation code to be able to disable the software, but the help desk would. So the help desk could then disable the client if they needed to troubleshoot an issue. And then there's actually time limits now that will re-enable that client for you if you forget to turn it back on. Now, the activation code is basically just the same activation code that you use to install the software. So in this case, the help desk would hopefully have access to this code. And then when they needed to go and disable the client software, they'll say, hey, what's your code? Put the code in, off you go. Over here in the version control, this is where you would go to download the software. So just like with the regular older versions of the client, we've got a Windows version and a Mac version that are downloadable from Akamai Control Center. So we do have, of course, the same things available now in the Apple Store and Google Store. So if you've got iPhones, iPads, all your iThings, you can get the client version in the Apple Store. Google Play Store will have that version for your Android devices. And if you have Chromebooks that need support, as long as those Chromebooks can run Android software, which most of the modern ones can, we can certainly use the Google Play Store version on Chromebook. Now, the cool part about this as well, if I slide this little slider over here to automatically upgrade, this will make sure that if we upgrade any clients to the newer version that, or we upgrade the client software in any manner, we'll go ahead and automatically upgrade those. So your devices will always have the latest version. So if you want to, just have us take care of that and make sure that your clients are always updated, just slide this little slider over. If you would rather test new versions and kind of deploy them out in a controlled manner, you can do that as well. So just turn that off if so you kind of have the decision to make there. Would recommend just turning that on. Let us keep that up to date for you. All of our clients are tested very, very thoroughly before we deploy them out. So I would suggest doing that. All right, so if we download this software and want to install it, what is this going to look like? What I want to show you here is I've got a lab environment here, lab PC, and we can see we got the older version. So this is the Windows 4.4.1 client. So the kind of latest release that we had for the standalone clients. We can see this is installed. The device is protected. And if I go here to my menu, I can see that, it shows up in my, applications. So up and running, everything is normal. If I go here into Enterprise Center, if I went to the legacy ETP clients report section, here I can see here's that device right here. So this is my Windows Lab PC running this version of the client. It's protected. Everything's ready to go. Now, you'll see if you do go to the legacy client section that you'll get this little message here that says, hey, go ahead and deploy the Zero Trust client in your network. So this is going to replace the standalone client. And it says your version of ETP client is supported for 15 months after its release. So that is the thing that we want to bring to your attention. If I go to the release notes here, we can see that 4.4.1 for Windows was released on January 23rd of this year. So that means that that version will go out of support in about April of next year. So those of you thinking, oh, is this something I got to do right away? No, you don't have to do it right away, but it's something that you'll probably want to get taken care of in the next couple of months if you can, just because, well, we're down to about 5 months or so left of support on this. Now, if you don't upgrade the clients, are bad things going to happen? Is this thing going to just shut off and nothing works? No, of course not. Wouldn't do that to you if the end of April comes along and you're still using the standalone version of the client, they'll still work. But if you open up a case with Akamai and we're trying to troubleshoot an issue, it will not be supported, and they're going to ask you to upgrade to the Zero Trust client. So, and that it's a it's a good thing to do anyway, just because all the new stuff is coming out on the Zero Trust client, and then we can do advanced troubleshooting with that as well. All right, so if I want to upgrade this version, I'll go ahead and let's close this out. I've got the installer here for our Zero Trust client here. I'll go ahead and let's just install this real quick. Now, for those of you that use a software management system, this will install exactly the same way as your other version of the client did. But I'm doing this just to kind of show you something cool that happens as this installs. All right, so pretty quick little thing here. Now this is going to pop open, and it's going to take just a second for this to load up. But now we can see we've got the Zero Trust client installed, and we're off to the races. Now you're going to see this little thing pop up that says enable access. If you are a secure internet access only customer, not using our enterprise application access product, this does not apply to you. You can just hit cancel. Now you're going to see over here it says access is unenrolled. Don't panic, please. This is normal behavior. You don't have the access product, so you're not enrolled. It doesn't matter. This is not effective to you at all. For the SIA customers, so you're going to see the threat protection. It comes up and it gets protected right away. So as soon as it can connect to our cloud, it's going to just get the product up and running, and so it's off to the races here. So now we can see if I go to my programs, I don't have that older version of the client. So what the new installer will do is remove any instances of our previous clients. So if you have, if you're one of those customers that uses both of our products, so you have an EAA client and an SIA client installed, this installer will remove both of those for you and install the new version. So I don't have that there, but if I do Akamai, here I can see now I've got Akamai Zero Trust client in my start menu. So we're up here, we're protected, we're off to the races, everything's good. Now, another thing I want to point your attention to, when I go to now Control Center, I've just installed this. If I go back here to ETP clients and I go to my report section, here we can see, oh, it still shows that there. That's a little interesting. So it still shows, even though I've uninstalled it, it's still showing that up and protected. You can see it last reported at 8:10. So if you go and look at this right away, it is going to show that old version still until the back end catches up. So if you still see it there, don't panic. It will go away in a few minutes. Now, if I go to now our clients and connection, and now I go to the Zero Trust client section. That's always a lovely thing to see there. This will load up and it will show that I now have that new client installed here. Sometimes that, I don't know, and I don't know if it's just in our internal accounts or what, but I've noticed that this doesn't go gracefully all the time, but we will see that we've got the Zero Trust client installed on that machine. You may see it in an unprotected status. Once again, don't panic. As long as when you open up your window here, as long as you see this protected here in this green status, this means that the device is protected. The policy that you have assigned for your client software will be applied. So as long as this is green, that's going to work. There are a couple of things that happen on our back end, and so it'll take a little bit of time to sync up. Now, when I tested this in preparation for this demo, when this client, when this Zero Trust client section loaded up, I did see that, I had my machine with the client installed, but it showed it as unprotected. And it took good 45 minutes to an hour for that to update. So there's little timers that happen within the client. The client checks in with our back end every so often, and then there's processes that run in our back office every so often. So things don't just update instantly with that, with the status. So if you load this up and that's going to be a pain in my butt and not show me this, but you will see your device here. It will probably say unprotected. Don't worry that it says unprotected. It will update itself. And like I said, it might take an hour or so for that to happen. When we see let's switch actually to another account here that's got a bunch of these clients installed. I want to where's my president? There he is. Okay. So here we've got the Zero Trust client, kind of dashboard that's showing you all of the clients that you have installed. So we're going to see if, this is going to show you that this is the remote access is, disabled. It'll say either unsubscribed or disabled, just because that's not going to be applicable if you're not using that product. You're going to see then the status of your threat protection, though. So in a perfect world, you're going to see all of these are protected. Sometimes if it's not activated, that just means somebody's installed it and not put in the activation code. And if that's been disabled by the user, you'll see that status as well. It's also going to show you this device local user. It's going to pick up that kind of local user information from the device itself. Now, what's cool is I can now open up this client and get a little bit more information than we used to get. So now we can see all of the details about the device itself. So once again, don't worry about the remote access part, not applicable. This is all part of the remote access part too. So it's not going to pull this information for SIA, but you're going to see the version of client, the last time it updated, and anything like that. If we go here to diagnostics, what we're able to do is request the logs for this machine. So if I click on this little log button up here, it's going to say, hey, would you like to request the logs from this device? Hey, yeah, send it to me. What'll happen is it will signal the client to run the diagnostics, create the logs, and then it will upload them right here. And so you'll be able to come back and find these logs when you're here as well. So you don't need to, as an administrator, even go touch this machine, go open up the client, remote into it, or go to the device manually and open up the client, run diagnostics, find the logs, do all the stuff that you used to do. We can just go here in Akamai Control Center, open up the particular device that we want, and then just request the logs. Now you can do the logs right from the client itself. So if we're looking here at the client, we can see the diagnostics here, or let's went to settings instead of diagnostics. But anyway, in the settings area while I'm here, if you've allowed the user to disable the client, they'd be able to just slide this over to turn that off as well. Access is not applicable here. But in the diagnostics section, I can do like a quick test if I want to just make sure that everything is working properly. It can connect to all the Akamai services and all that kind of thing. That's, kind of a good place to start. If things aren't working the way that we expect, we can kind of run this quick test and make sure the client can connect to all the Akamai services and things of that nature. Now, if I go to a full diagnostic zone, now I can run a full diagnostic. This takes just a couple of minutes for it to run. But what will happen then is the logs will be generated, and you will have two little buttons that will pop up here. One will say download the logs, so you can download the logs to the local machine. So if you want to, look at the logs yourself and see if you can figure out what's going on with the logs as you're doing that, you can do that yourself. And then it's got another button that says send the logs to Akamai support. When you do that, it will shoot those logs out to our cloud. And then after they're uploaded, you'll be able to go to Akamai Control Center and see those logs in that particular device where we were looking at before. Now, the cool part then is, Akamai support and our tier 3 support, all of the folks will be able to, just go and grab those logs right from there. So we didn't have to upload the logs or anything like that. Yeah, so here's the thing. So it's showing me that my system is healthy. I can save the logs here. This is the cool part. Now I can select where the logs are downloaded. So instead of hiding these down somewhere in the Windows directory, someplace where it's impossible to find, hey, I can choose where I want these to be. Hey, maybe I just want to, send them to the desktop, save the logs, off we go. The other button though, if I want to just send these logs to the, I just send these, click that and it will send the logs off to Akamai. Now, one thing that you'll notice, you'll start seeing these, little requests here as part of that diagnostics. It's just running connections to our test domains just to see, is this going to block threats and that kind of thing. So, and then we can see now that our log file is right here in the desktop. We can open that up and do what we need to with that. With that, that is the Akamai Zero Trust client. So just as a recap, this is the newer version of the client that's going to have all the new features and development on that new client. We're able to do some streamlined troubleshooting with the ability to get logs from a machine without necessarily having to go and touch that device. And we can request the logs and send the logs directly if we need to, all of those kind of things. Just as a reminder, the standalone version of the client, the latest version will go out of support at sometime around the middle to end of April. So gives you about 5 months if you want to start upgrading these clients. I would highly suggest that you do that just because at the end of April, those will be unsupported. And even if you open a case, like if you opened up a case today on that, they would probably recommend that you upgrade to the newer version of the client, just to alleviate any concerns that there might be with the older clients. So,
all right. Well, perfect, Douglas. Thank you so much for that summary there. So we'll open it up for questions. For those of you that have any questions, you're more than welcome to pop them into the webinar chat, and Douglas and I can sort of ping off of those. I wanted to take a step back, and probably should have said this before Douglas started chatting. We have a lot of customers that are not actively using the legacy client, and that's okay. If you don't want to use this client, it is not a required piece of the DNS filtering service. So this is a informational. If you are using the client and that need to sort of upgrade now to the new Zero Trust client, if you are not using it client and you're interested, right, this is also a good overview for you to understand, how you can go about the process of downloading and deploying the agent, but also just in general, the benefits, right? So, having the agent itself, if you've been utilizing the DNS filtering service for a while and you're not using the agent and you're not using the security connector, then there are, challenges when you're doing remediation if you're trying to find that, internal host name or the IP address of the device that's making the request that's getting blocked, right? Inevitably, we have conversations where you're saying, hey, I see this command and control activity in my environment, and all I see is my public IP address. Who did this, right? So this is one of those ways that you can get that who did this information. And so the agent itself also provides that off-network protection. So when you're not behind the corporate firewall and having the policy applied to you that way, that device travels home or to Starbucks or wherever it may go, you have the same security policy, that is enforced when you're on your corporate network. So it's another benefit to utilizing the client. So definitely recommend it if you are not actively using it. But again, it's not a required part of this service. So let's see if we have any questions here, Douglas.
So Aaron had one about, hey, do I have to do anything in the Palo Alto firewall? Any exceptions, any of that kind of stuff? I did put in the chat the direct link for the Zero Trust Client Tech Docs here on Akamai Tech Docs site. And you will see that, we want to make sure that we can, connect to these Akamai services, and it's really on port 443. So you really don't need, 443 outbound is probably open for web browsing and that kind of thing anyway. So shouldn't have to do anything crazy with that. If you've got, any rules that limit access to the internet on port 443, or if you've locked down port 53 to specific things, make sure that your firewall is allowing connections on port 53 to at least your VIPs, to make sure that we can connect in that way. But basically, really, port 443 and port 53 are what's needed. Couple of port 80 things here just to make sure that we can connect to these services. As long as if you run that quick test from the client, that'll let you know right away if that client can't connect to a service that's going to be needed. So you really shouldn't have to troubleshoot any issues from that perspective unless you've done specific things in your firewall. And now, if you're using the standalone version of the client, everything's working great. There's no additional things you would have to do in the firewall. If it's running with the standalone client, it will run with the Zero Trust client.
Perfect. Thank you, Douglas. So there was another question that came in that says, if a system shows as not available, does the client of the unavailable device still protect the system?
Yeah, so and like I said, it will take, when you first install that, just a few minutes if it says unavailable. And now if after an hour or so, it's still showing not protected or unavailable or something like that, then you'll want to start looking at hey, is something being blocked or something of that nature. But if we look at the client itself, so if we're looking at the machine itself, as long as this says threat protection protected, this means that the device is protected and the policy that you have assigned to your client software will be enforced. So as long as it's green on the machine itself, the device is protected.
Perfect. And are there other ways to set up the agent other than the activation code?
So yeah, we do need to have the activation code that what the activation code is doing is basically cryptographically associating your versions of the client with your configuration. So this is how we know, that one community college maybe has installed a bunch of clients. How do we know that's coming from this community college versus the other community college? Using this activation code, it kind of puts the glue that glues your connectors to your configurations. Now, if let's go back here and look at something real quick. You'll see that you've got the ability to download the client. What I actually did, since I'm on a Windows desktop, and to get this file from my local machine to my remote desktop, I could have Dropboxed it or something like that, but it's an easier way of doing it is you can copy this link. Now you don't even need an account with a control center to be able to download this on another machine. So if I version of Chrome here, it's going to do that. Fine. I can just paste it right here, and now it will just take me right to a download, and I can download that. Now, if you noticed when I installed the client on this particular machine, it didn't ask me to put in the activation code. If I do that link kind of thing, now I can install that client directly without having to go in and put in that activation code. Now, if you're using, a software management system, and if you've installed like the standalone client with a software management system, you've gone in and populated the activation code in that process, you would do it exactly the same way. And once again, your activation code is right here. Now you can also, if you've got like unmanaged devices that you want to send it, you can put in email addresses here and send a link to folks, like if you've got unmanaged devices and you want them to be able to install this Zero Trust client, you can put in a bunch of email addresses here, and you can send out kind of an invitation that gives them a download link and lets them install the device on their own machine. So you can do that here in the unmanaged devices section.
Perfect.
And you'd want to put in your corporate email domain here, just so anybody that's got that domain would be able to do that.
Okay. So moving on to one of the other questions, when will the legacy ETP client stop working? Right. So again, as Douglas mentioned, the end of support for each agent is going to be 15 months after its initial release date. That does not, and correct me if I'm wrong, Douglas, that does not mean that that date in April for that particular one we were looking at means the agent will just stop working. It'll just mean that if you need additional support on that agent, that the only option that will be available to you is to upgrade to the Zero Trust client, because it'll be out of support. So there's not necessarily a date where the agent itself will stop working. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. Yeah. So yeah, the client, and that doesn't mean that that client will just work in perpetuity. So I would assume that they would just have like an end of life. At some point we're going to have to, kind of close the gate on the corral and just, say, hey, this is it. So there will be probably an end of life on that. So there'll be an end of support. The end of support is 15 months. So think of end of April would be end of support for the latest version of the standalone client. And then, it will go just kind of end of life and stop working at some point. I don't have any dates for that, or, and they haven't announced anything as far as that is concerned, but there will be notifications, via email through Akamai Control Center that lets you know, hey, this that standalone client that you're using is just not going to work after a certain day. Please upgrade.
But at this point, no date like that has been set.
No date like that has been set.
Perfect. Okay. So there's another question. We currently use a web application firewall to access certain websites. Does the Akamai solution negate the need for a WAF in front of those sites?
No. So, if so, seems like that WAF might be doing something different than I would assume that a WAF is doing. So WAF is typically going to protect, your website or your web application from malicious input. So a WAF is going to work, on port 80 or port 443. So it's protecting websites and web traffic. So it's protecting from things like, cross-site scripting, SQL injections, command injections, all that kind of stuff. So the SIA product is working on port 443. So the way most of y'all are using it is just protective DNS. So we are resolving the good stuff, blocking the bad stuff. So if you're going to Akamai.com, MCNC.org, GitHub, YouTube, all these things that are useful, they're safe. We know we can resolve those each and every time. We're going to, just resolve those queries for you. But if somebody clicks on a phishing link, or we've got a device that's infected, maybe reaching out to a command and control infrastructure, some kind of infected ad that's taking us to a malware drop site, all of that stuff is going to be blocked. So we resolve the good stuff, block the bad stuff. So it's just protective DNS. So does not have anything to do with a web application firewall that you might be running, or that a site that you're visiting might be running. So as long as you're not as long as you're not, trying to run like a SQL injection or something while you're trying to access a website, you'll be able to access that website. Now, if you are trying to do something nefarious like a command injection or a SQL injection or something on a website, this particular product, Secure Internet Access, will not prevent that from happening. We're still going to, if you're trying to, attack Akamai.com, it's still going to resolve Akamai.com. Now, the web application firewall then will, protect the website from that malicious input. So two different functions on that.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. And then the last question that we have here is, while on site, does it auto disable?
That is a great question. And the answer is it can. And let me show you what I mean by that. Yeah. So, and there could be, a situation where you want a different policy to apply to a device when it's on net versus off net. Or, in this case, maybe we just want that client to be disabled when it's on network. We can do that within the policy. So if I go here just to this demo policy, here in this settings section, we are going to see down here at the bottom of so I'm in a policy, I've gone here to the settings tab. Down here at the bottom, there is this little slider that says disable client. What this means is that when I turn this on, if I am on network, the client is going to recognize, hey, I'm on network. I'm on a location that's configured, that this policy applies to. So the client will recognize it's on network. It will disable itself. Now, when I take that device off network, and let's say I take the laptop home, the client's going to recognize, oh, hey, I'm not on network anymore. I need to re-enable myself. Now the off-net policy will apply. So just to kind of, refresh your memory on how that all works, if we've got different locations, so maybe you've got one locations, maybe you've got multiple locations, but the location is basically specifying that, you know, this is the IP space that's associated with your internet connection. So when we see DNS requests coming to your virtual IPs coming from this IP space, we know that's coming from your organization, and we apply this specific policy. Now, up at the top, we've got our off-network client policy. We can select what policy is applied for our client software. So if we want the same policy to apply to a device wherever it is, we can just have one policy and apply it to our locations and to our off-network clients. If I want a different policy to apply, I would create maybe an off-network client policy, and now select that policy here in the locations that I want this policy to apply to my client software. And then once again, if I slide that little slider off that says disable client, that means it will disable that client when it's on that network.
So Douglas, as a follow-up to that, is it correct to say that if you do disable it when it's on network, you lose the granularity around the host that's making the request for remediation?
That means that the client will not report it, correct. Now, you still have the ability to be able to get the device information, and the way that you do that, just for those that may not be familiar, there are virtual machines that are available as part of your service. So, you know, it's everything that we're talking about here is included with the service that you have through MCNC. So we've got the ability to download these virtual machines. So there's, you know, version for VMware, version for Microsoft Hyper-V, whatever virtual environment you're using, you would just download and install these things called a security connector. We're going to use them as DNS forwarders. So ideally, you would install 2 of these devices. All we're going to do is give them private IP addresses. Now, in your DHCP scope, what you do is you specify that the primary and secondary DNS server values you hand out are the IP addresses of these virtual machines. The virtual machines are now going to accept all your DNS requests. Anything internal to your network is going to send it down here to the internal DNS server. Anything that's external, though, it's going to send it out here to the Akamai cloud. We'll take action on those requests based upon your policy. Now, since these virtual machines are actually accepting the connection request, we can now get the IP address and machine name of this device. So it looks like maybe we've got a server here, might be compromised in some way, reaching out to a command and control infrastructure. We're going to block that connection and then now gain the IP address and machine name details of this, and you'll see that in your reports. Without these virtual machines, you know, if you just have your DNS forwarder set here in your internal DNS server, all we're going to see is a request coming from the internal DNS server. So all we'll see is that device. We won't see the end device. So to get the end user device details on requests that violate your policy, you need to either use these security connectors like we're showing here, or the client software.
Great, thank you. And so going back to the question before, if you don't have a security connector deployed and you disable the agent, then you do lose that visibility. If you have the security connector deployed and you disable the agent when it comes on net, then you will continue to keep that visibility. For those of you who have been utilizing the service for a while now, you know, there's been multiple flavors of the security connector. There was the security connector as a sinkhole, which did not report all of the DNS events all of the time. The security connector as a forwarder, which was what the diagram was that Douglas was just showing, is going to see all of those DNS requests because it's now part of that DNS infrastructure for your network, right? So you can see all of those DNS requests are going to go through that security connector. So you will see all of those requests, unlike with the sinkhole where you can see it's not going to send everything in all times and it's timestamp required and lots of other things that cause some of that reporting to be you know, less consistent with the sinkhole mode. So I say that to say if you're using the sinkhole, you weren't aware of the forwarder option, and you're interested, we can absolutely support you in switching over to the DNS forwarder option.
Yeah, and so just to kind of refresh your memory on how that sinkhole worked, basically in your policy, so you would set up a security connector, and then in your policy, you would associate that security connector in your policy, and basically setting up as a sinkhole mode, meaning that now this machine, this device, now it's looking up that command and control infrastructure. It comes to the DNS server or internal server. Internal server says, that's not on my network. Hey, Akamai, what can you tell me about this? We're going to see, oh, hey, that's a known command and control infrastructure. Our policy says sinkhole. Now I'm going to return the IP address of the security connector. So ideally, you would have to have a public IP address on here, because most malicious software knows if it gets a private IP address, oh, there's a mitigation in place. Don't make the connection request. So that's one reason that it didn't work. So if you had a private IP address here, it could be tough sledding. Now, so it's going to return the IP address of this security connector. Now the device is trying to connect to what it thinks is baddomain.com, but it's actually connecting to the security connector. And what was supposed to happen is now we get that machine detail and can report it there. Now there was, like we had been talking about, a couple of reasons why that didn't work. Mostly because a lot of folks were putting a private IP address here, and now we would see we would not see any details, if the malicious software was, noticing that it was a private IP address, wouldn't try to make a connection request. The way this worked is we would need to see a DNS request come out here, followed by a connection request. So if we didn't see the DNS request followed by the connection request, we couldn't correlate the events, and so it didn't work. The other thing that would make it not work is now this internal server would cache that response. So the first time somebody went to that malicious domain, it would report, but then subsequent responses would just get served directly from the internal DNS server. Now we're not seeing that request for a DNS request followed by a connection request, so they couldn't correlate the events. So really frustrating. I don't, you can still use it as a sinkhole. That methodology is still supported. I don't recommend it. It just doesn't work consistently all the time. The DNS forwarder mode now, we kind of created this because of the limitations on the other one. Now we can have private IP addresses on here. We don't need to burn up a public IP address, and it does work really, really consistently. So definitely a good way to go.
Great, thank you. And so we have a training video on how to deploy the security connector as a forwarder. So if that's something that you guys are interested in doing, then definitely reach out and we can give you some support walking you through those steps as well.
It's a 10-minute thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy to do. So I wanted to circle back. There was a question, just as a reminder, as you are deploying the Zero Trust client, if you had the legacy ETP client already on the device, as a part of that download process, it does remove the legacy device. So you don't have to, make sure to remove the old one first before deploying the new one.
Right.
Let's see here.
Yeah, Daniel Zell definitely want to change from sinkhole to the DNS forwarder, and yeah, just let us know if you need help with that, because that's gonna be a good thing for you to do.
All right. Let's see here. Do you see Douglas? Do you see Tug's question? Which MSI switch option? Go ahead.
Which MSI switch option do we need to script? I don't know the answer to this question, unfortunately, to pass the activation code. How and so what are actually, I think it's in the documentation here.
Yeah. So Tug, let us, I saw what you posted again there in that second post. Let us take a look at that and we can send you an email follow-up with that. And obviously Douglas is showing you here what the, where the documentation is.
Yeah, and so I think that that switch actually, now that I guess I do know how to answer that, because I think there is it's documented in here. Yeah, so your zero trust client install on Windows. So it'll kind of show you all of the switches and things that you need on here. So what I will do is there's a direct link for that.
Perfect. All right. And here, I'll copy that out to everybody. All right, and then let's see here. We're coming up on 5 minutes to go to the end of our time here. So going back to the discussion around the agent versus the forwarder, using both, using one or the other, that is completely up to you guys and how you want to manage and utilize this service, right? So the agent is going to provide off-network protection. It's only going to be deployed to your managed devices. So presumably everybody on this call is going to have people and devices utilizing your network that are not managed. So from a visibility perspective, if you're trying to, track down, hey, we see this activity, who did it, right? If you only have the agent deployed and you don't have the connector, the security connector deployed, you're only going to see that telemetry around the devices that you manage. Now that might be okay, because it could be that you're not interested in doing any remediation activity around, or even tracking down the user for those unmanaged devices. And then vice versa, you could have agent fatigue and you don't want to put one more agent on your devices, and you're utilizing some other tool when those devices travel off network for protection. And so instead you just want the security connector for the, sort of sweeping visibility that it provides for all your DNS queries. So when I say that we have customers that utilize none of these additional tools, both of them or one or the other, it's an absolutely accurate statement. It's how you want to utilize the tool. The more that you use, the more information that you're going to receive, as you can imagine. Anything to add there, Douglas?
No, you summarized that perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so what I'm going to do is when we get done here, I'm going to package up this video. We'll get it posted to the MCNC website for the DNS Security Filtering service page. We'll send this out to everybody who registered, so you have a link, and then I'll include those additional links that we've shared in the chat today, right? So the tech docs, there's a link to the training video around how to do, the onboarding for the the security connector, all those things. I'll package all of that up and send it on to everybody. So just as a quick reminder for support, security or secops at mcnc.org for overall just service management. Hey, I don't know if we have these things, I need some additional training, just help, right? Security services at mcnc.org, and we'll be happy to help you with that as well. Douglas, any parting words here?
No, I just would reemphasize that, if you need help with any of this stuff, you don't have to go it alone. The documentation's there. If you want to be self-service, go ahead and do everything you need to. But if you do need help, reach out to Ruthie's team right away. The guys at the support desk are super proactive in getting me or Akamai support involved if we need to. So just realize there's a plethora of resources there to help you along the way. We want to make sure you get everything out of the product that you need to. So don't be shy about asking for help. We're here to make sure that you are successful in your endeavors.
Absolutely. Thank you, Douglas. And thank you for everybody who hung around for 30 minutes of questions after the presentation. So again, appreciate everybody's time, and look forward to an email from me with all this information and those links that I was mentioning earlier. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. Thanks, Douglas.
You bet. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.